Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? Checking in today for a few words from God's Word and hopefully offering us a reminder that I think a few people could use to hear today. We are in the middle of this quarantine, and sometimes that can get pretty frustrating and tough. By this time in the game, many of us have formed, if I could be honest, many opinions about the situation. Some of us have gotten to the opinion that this is not worth our time and frustrating on all levels, and we've had enough, and we're ready to let people know. Other people are at a spot where maybe they've had a loved one that's gone through this, or maybe they are ready to be done with it, and so they are of the other opinion of let's just do what we're supposed to and get through this. I know there are groups popping up that are boycotting this and feeling that and speaking on these things and talking about that, and I know that in a real quick order, if I took a poll of my friends on Facebook or the people that might be watching this message of what they thought of different people that have been talking, I know that a lot of you have a lot of opinions to offer on the topics and on the conversation. But I think if we would be just pause for a moment today and turn to God's Word, I think maybe a few of us, maybe a lot of us, could learn to be reminded of what God would share with us in these times. Proverbs chapter 11, again, it's in the heart of what I just think are just the little nuggets, right? I mean, this is God's Twitter, really, honestly. If you want to know what Proverbs is, it's God Twitter, all right? It's what God gave to us when He was trying to encourage us and teach us. Almost all these Proverbs are 140 characters or less. They're simple sentences, they're little lines that help remind us of what's important and true and wise. And so in Proverbs chapter 11, many of the Proverbs in chapter 11 speak to us in our tongues, speak to us in the words that we say or the conversation that we use, or perhaps the opinions that we share. You know the old adage about opinions. Opinions are like elbows. Everybody's got one. Actually, most of us got two, right? So here's the deal. We live in a day and age when everybody through social media gets a chance to share opinion with everyone else. And it's maybe kind of ironic that I'm sharing every day through social media. And yet I think that there is some wisdom to be gained by closing our mouths, by putting our hands over our mouth, and then maybe not literally. I'm going to have to hand sanitize now. But sometimes I think that because of the medium that we have, because of the platforms that are available to us, because of the availability to tell people what we think and to share how we feel, I think we've gotten into this culture where we don't respect our neighbor, where we shout across the aisle, right? Whatever side of the aisle you're on, you shout across it, where we tell them what to do and we tell him how to live and we tell her what we think and we share and we share and we share what our opinion is, what our view is like, and we're pretty convinced that we're always right. And if we can just turn to God's Word for a minute, I just want to share some of the verses from Proverbs 11 and point us to maybe a better direction than just spouting out our opinions at the latest whim, at the latest response, at the latest whatever it might be. Listen to these verses from Proverbs chapter 11 and just take to heart what God is sharing. Proverbs 11:9 says, "With his mouth the godless destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge the righteous escape." 11:11 says, "Through the blessing of the upright a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked it's destroyed." Verse 12 says, "A man who lacks judgment derides his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his tongue." Verse 13 says, "A gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy man keeps a secret." In verses 16 and 17, "A kind-hearted woman gains respect, but ruthless men gain only wealth. A kind man benefits himself, but a cruel man brings trouble on himself." I want to go back to verse 12 real quick, and that's really the theme verse I want to just challenge us with today, the verse I really want us to focus in on or really just maybe commit to today. It says this, it says, "A man who lacks judgment derides his neighbor." A man who lacks judgment, right, tears down his neighbor, rips him apart, tells him what he thinks, lets him know his opinion, all right? And so a man who lacks judgment derides his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his tongue. A man of understanding holds his tongue. Now, as a preacher, that seems kind of hard for me sometimes. But here's what I'd offer to you, right? Any of you that are on Facebook, which many of you are watching this through Facebook, can scroll pretty quickly and find somebody's opinion about something that's going on in our world, whether it's we should stay at home or whether we shouldn't stay at home, whether it's we should do this or whether we shouldn't do this, whether they should do that or they should do this, whether we like that guy or whether we like that woman or whether we don't like that woman or we don't like that guy. And you all know who I'm talking about if you live in Michigan and you're a part of the United States. And usually it's one or the other, and sometimes it's both. Listen, opinions are many. And we've all got our perspectives on things. But Proverbs 11:12 points out that when we lack judgment, when we spout quickly, when we put down our neighbor, we're not doing anybody any good. But a man of understanding, a woman of understanding, they hold their tongues. Here's what I believe is probably true right now in the social media world. A lot of people that aren't talking about their opinions are the ones we need to be listening to. The ones who aren't spouting this or shouting that, the ones who aren't ripping him or ripping her, the ones who aren't shouting and yelling and all opinioning are probably the wisest ones of the bunch. And maybe they're taking it in and they're processing our world and they're loving well their neighbors and they're doing their best to share the message of Jesus without cutting down and sharply just disagreeing with everyone and everything and everybody. Here's what I know. I know a lot of us have a lot of feelings right now, and especially in a time of chaos and calamity, sometimes those bubble out, and we need to extend grace to a lot of people. But here's the best way I know how we can extend grace. It's to shut our mouths and to sometimes not offer our opinions when our opinions aren't needed and necessary. The responsibility of leadership for many people in many positions is strong, and it is hard. And we need to pray for them. We need to extend them grace, and we need to do our best to be wise. My guess would be this, that there are people in your life that you know are wise, who probably aren't running off at the mouth one way or the other these days. Here's what I'd say you do. You listen to them. You watch how they're living. You look at the choices they're making, and you try to replicate that in your life. I think that's what Proverbs 11 is really referring to. It's saying, listen, don't run off your mouth. Don't make up your own opinions, because you might end up looking kind of foolish at the end. There's the old adage, right? What's it say? Like, better to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Some of us might need to put that into practice. And that's maybe not a joyful word, but it's sometimes a good word. And I think it's from God's word. And so that's what I want to encourage you with today. Today, let's do our best to share truth, but let's leave opinions to others, and let's extend grace and love in the process. Hope you guys have a super awesome, amazing day. Wishing you nothing but the best. We're going to get through this. God is still faithful. He's going to be good. We're going to be okay. Turn to God's word, and let's live out his wisdom in our lives. Have a super awesome, amazing day. Love y'all. Peace out. Deuces.